the macro analysis right now for gold and silver. There's a lot of news, people hyper focusing on the silver side because that's what got a lot of people excited at the start of the year. And they're kind of hinting towards the fact that silver looks like it's entered a bearish market, right? You had a lower low, and you had a lower low here. We had a lower high as well. So normally that's an indication that you're in a downtrend. But what I bring the attention to is the fact that gold, which is normally the leader in precious metals, right? If gold breaks out, typically your silver, platinum, palladium tend to follow. It's rare that they move directionally in different ways, right? Sometimes you'll have a variance or a change in the correlator coefficient, right? One of them might be moving higher or lesser, but they move directionally together most of the time. So the reason I bring to gold is because gold actually did a higher low recently, and now we're stabilizing around the same high level. For technical analysts who are more into patterns, this is called an ascending triangle. And typically what happens is we probably end up doing another touch to the downside to hit this trend line. And then from there, probabilistically, obviously, you would have that breakout towards further highs from there. And that's why if we're looking at gold being the mover here, it's actually looking extremely bullish versus silver that's kind of looking like it's going down based on what we're seeing. So that was the attention I was bringing there. Apologies, it wasn't properly recorded earlier. And then for the silver, what I was showing is the difference between the silver miners right now, the SIL being one of the biggest ETFs in silver mining, and the silver price, right? When I made my video, silver was up here at $120, and since we drew down 30%, but the miners didn't have that same story, right? The miners went from 120 to around 95, so they came down more like 20% or so on average. And now they're back up to only about 10% away from their all-time highs. So the miners have started significantly outperforming the silver metal. Now, the issue is when you say that, people are like, no, but I'm down. So it's not outperforming. It is, right? You can be down less than the other thing. And then comparatively, you are outperforming, even though you're down from that point. And that's what's happened, right? Since I made the announcement that silver made very little sense to buy and it made a lot more sense to buy the miners, we've actually seen the market agree with that thesis, which again, it's rare. Most of the time the market's been irrational for the last year, but it's been nice to see that we have a little bit more reason in the markets over the last few weeks. Um, so that's that. I like the setup on the miners. I like as well the setup on the precious metals, and these earnings so far have been very interesting. So, going back to Barrick right now, like I said, we have record earnings. We have the adjusted net earnings that are just based on the operations of a dollar and 3 cents per share, beating by 20%. Record free cash flow, record EBITDA, record share repurchases that they're going to stop. So it's really just a blowout quarter across the board. If it wasn't for the small changes that they announced and where they're pivoting their focus, I would have only good things to say about the company. They also are putting on pause their biggest growth prospects that used to be in Pakistan at Reko Diq. Um, Main reason being that they're currently in a re-evaluation of like the jurisdictional risk in the area. They want to make sure that they are not they seem to be more concerned than they were at the start of last year regarding the area. And I know Mark Bristow, who was the CEO at the time, he was very confident there, but he's since stepped down. So I think you have kind of new heads in on the board and new people expressing their thoughts. And I think there's a lot of concerns around the Pakistan and the area where they were located. They changed certain things. So they had bought back $1.5 billion worth of stock in 2025. They just changed their policy into the new year here. Instead of doing share buybacks, they just made it so up to 50% of their free cash flow every quarter is going to go into straight dividends, meaning they're going to start paying money out of the company a lot more. Their base policy is going to be 17.5 cents per share, but it's going to look like about 40 cents per share, even more than 40 cents per share if you just measure, you trying to project the free cash flow based on current metals. So the dividend right now looks like it could be anywhere between like 3 to up to 4.5% in the coming year, which is incredible for a gold miner. That being said, I was kind of disappointed. I like the value of the company right now, so I do prefer them accumulating stock when it's accretive to do so. In my mind, that's what it is right now. But there's been a lot of holdouts from a lot of investment capital from pensions. So maybe there is my other side of myself that is considering that maybe the idea of higher dividends is going to be attractive to people who've been on the sidelines into this market, not going into the gold and silver market. It might be another catalyst for that capital. And Keith Neumeyer was talking about this in Vancouver, saying how he was very surprised the pensions hadn't already started to rotate more significantly into the precious metal space. Second thing is Barrick is working towards a spin-off for 2026. So they want to spin out all of their North American assets to separate like their jurisdictionally more risky assets with their higher quality assets. Again, it's like you're trying to generate value without making any actually underlying changes to the company, which none of that between the dividend and the spin out, none of that is actually talking about like what you're going to be doing to improve this company. And something I think is even a little bit more almost like a double speak situation is if you believe inherently that your company is undervalued, and that's why you're spinning out your North American assets. You're saying we're not realizing our full potential on the valuation side, then you should be buying back your stock more than ever right now, right? If the whole thesis is let's spin this out, we're not realizing the value. So why did we stop buying back our stock? So that's it, it's just it doesn't compute very well with me. Barrick is probably going to be one of the companies I sell into the next quarter of this year. Because of that, I was just a little bit disappointed with the direction of it. Now, do I think it's going to attract capital with a high dividend yield? Like I said, anywhere between like 3 to 4% possibly. I think it genuinely might. I'm just not happy with it. This is more of a value thing. It's less of a momentum or price thing. I'm just a bit disappointed.